Let's talk about Chad Ochocinco Johnson, former NFL wide receiver, certified internet personality, and apparently the most confusing man alive to date. Because the more this man opens his mouth about relationships, the more you realize his standards, his logic, and his actions are all running on completely different operating systems, none of which are compatible with each other. So what exactly does it take to be with Chad Johnson? Buckle up. This is going to be a ride. Most men with dating preferences tend to keep it simple. Fewer complications, clean slate, not Chad. Chad has flipped the script entirely if you don't already have at least 2 children. You don't even make it to round 1 with him. He made this crystal clear on a February 2025 episode of his podcast Nightcap, co-hosted with Shannon Sharpe. Now you might be wondering why? What's the deep philosophy here? Surely it's about maturity, emotional readiness, a grounded lifestyle? Nope, it's about snacks.
I'm not even looking at you if you ain't got at least 2.
Why do you want to date females that have kids?
98.9% of the time, they never have no goddamn food in the refrigerator.
So this man who has fathered 8 children across 7 different women will disqualify you on the spot if you can't keep oatmeal cream pies and Capri Sun stocked in your fridge. Not for emotional maturity, not for stability, for midnight snack access. He does try to add some depth to it. Women with kids, he argues, are more organized, more grounded, less caught up in social media and going out. In his mind, a mother equals stability, and that sounds reasonable enough until you look at what actually happened. He was engaged to Sharella Rosado, real estate mogul. 3 kids, literally every box checked. She was organized, stable, a mother, established. She was the woman he claimed to want. He cheated on her anyway, multiple times, over 4 years. So the snacks, the kids, the stability checklist, none of it was ever really the point. Now here's where things get genuinely hard to explain. Chad has 8 confirmed children with 7 different women. At one point, he believed the number was 11, with 1 being a possible. And when he sat with that number, his actual stated concern was not the complexity of managing those family dynamics. It was not the emotional weight on those children. It was that an odd number of kids is bad luck. His solution? Have more children until the count becomes even. That was said out loud on a podcast in October 2023 with full confidence. There is no diplomatic way to frame this. A man who already has children with multiple women across multiple broken relationships is focused on numerology as the root problem, not patterns, not behavior, the number.
You don't like women feet?
You better let them sit in cocoa butter for about 3 hours.
Nah, you ain't gotta do that, man. Listen, ain't nothing like you don't be like when you don't suck. Never mind. You know, it's a kid friendly. It's a kid friendly show. You don't suck on the toe, huh?
Come on, man. Come on, Ocho.
Those who follow Chad online already knew this was coming. He has been publicly and repeatedly vocal about his fascination with women's feet, including making multiple posts specifically about Rihanna's feet. He has suggested this quality played a genuine role in his attraction to Sherelle, framing it as one of the things that drew him to her. What's interesting here isn't the preference itself, people like what they like. What's interesting is that Chad presents it as a selling point. He doesn't downplay it or keep it private. He brings it up freely and seems to genuinely believe it makes him more interesting. That level of confidence in something this specific is psychologically a lot to unpack. When it comes to money, Chad Johnson is not playing games with his wallet. The man spent his first 2 years in the NFL living inside the Cincinnati Bengals stadium to avoid paying rent. He eventually moved into a modest 1-bedroom apartment, not because he had to, but because that's just how he operates. Frugality isn't a phase, it's a personality, and it follows him straight to the dating table, literally. His first date strategy is McDonald's, not as a vibe, not as a cute, humble moment, but as a deliberate character test. Women who are comfortable with simple are genuine, women who expect more are materialistic. That is his framework, and he is stuck to it.
Sweetie, they got some nice rooms, $30 rooms at the Executive Palace. I ain't really trying to spend no money like that. What you trying to do?
He took Shirley to McDonald's on their first date, then told her about a nearby motel with $30 rooms, the Executive Palace. They went. That was the beginning of a 4-year engagement. He has also been completely transparent about the fact that he does not believe in taking his time before getting intimate. 3 dates, 90 days, building a connection. Slowly, none of that is part of his playbook. Get it out of the way early, and if the connection is real, people will stick around anyway. He has acknowledged this outlook is a direct contributing factor to how many children he has. Here's where the frugality story gets complicated. When Sherelle, who built her own real estate career from the ground up, asked Chad to sign a prenuptial agreement before marriage, he said no. His reasoning was that their roles were reversed and he was fine with that arrangement. He openly described himself as a stay-at-home partner during that period, playing video games, not working, living well on her income. He even framed it as an educational experience, said it helped him understand why women are attracted to financially stable partners. So to be clear, this is the same man who will take you to McDonald's, suggest a $30 motel on date 1, and refuse to sign a prenup protecting your money while spending your money. The Capri Suns still need to be stocked though. That part is firm.
You need the bad trying to look cute with good hair. I don't want fucking models. I want fucking athletes. What'd you do in high school? Show me some fucking tape. I need that DNA. I need that fucking mixture to be on point.
This one reframes everything. Chad is not approaching dating as a search for love or companionship. He is approaching it like a talent evaluation. He wants athletic women, women who played sports in high school, women whose genetic makeup will produce athletic children. He wants to see tape, like a combine, for a relationship. This is not a small detail. It reveals that across all of these rules, the kids requirement, the snacks, the frugality tests, the feet, the prenup refusal, the common thread, is that Chad views relationships primarily as something that should serve his vision of his own legacy, not mutual growth, not genuine partnership, extension of self. Chad talks often about honesty, transparency, and communication being the foundation of a healthy relationship. He has said it in multiple interviews. He believes it sincerely, or at least he says so. And then Page 6 reported that after 4 years together, Sherelle discovered he had been in contact with multiple women behind her back the entire time. She ended things in 2024 and didn't look back. By the summer of 2025, he had already gone public with someone new. The cycle is the story. Chad has an incredibly detailed playbook for evaluating women's snack inventory, child count, foot condition, athletic bloodline, willingness to accept a $30 motel on date 1. It is one of the most specific romantic screening processes you will ever encounter from a public figure. What the playbook does not have is a single page about what he brings to the table, what he offers beyond the chaos, what he is willing to be consistent about or sacrificed or held accountable for. Control can feel like a strategy for a long time. But eventually the options thin out, the late nights slow down, and what remains is whoever you actually built something real with. Chad has been playing this game long enough that time is going to have something to say about it. It always does. Here's the part of this conversation that keeps getting skipped over. Everyone wants to laugh at Chad's rules, and honestly, some of them deserve to be laughed at. But let's be real about what's actually happening here. Chad Johnson is a man who peaked at something extraordinary. He was one of the most electric players in NFL history. 6 Pro Bowls, legally changed his name to his jersey number, danced on the field before they made rules to stop him. He was genuinely must-watch television every Sunday for almost a decade, and then it ended, the way it always ends. Suddenly one day, the game just didn't need him anymore. What we're watching now, the rules, the podcasts, the constant commentary about women and dating, isn't really about any woman. It's about a man who built his entire identity around being exceptional, and is now trying to figure out what he is when the thing that made him exceptional is gone. The hyper-specific dating requirements, the need to evaluate women like prospects, the obsession with legacy through genetics. All of it points to someone who is still, on some level, trying to run a version of the same game he used to run on Sundays. Control the field, create the system, win. The problem is relationships don't work on a playbook, and the more rigid the rules get, the more obvious it becomes that the rules are a defense mechanism, not a dating strategy. Because here's what gets glossed over when people talk about Chad and Sherelle. That woman was not a passive player in this story. Sherelle Rosado built a real estate business from scratch, starred in her own Netflix show, raised 3 kids, and ran her life with the kind of focus and discipline that most people just talk about. She let Chad into that world. She gave him stability, structure, a home, a family environment, everything he claims to want in the women he dates. And while she was doing all of that, he was entertaining other women and refusing to sign a legal document that would protect everything she worked for. When she found out, she didn't spiral publicly, she didn't do a long emotional interview, she ended it and kept moving. That is the part of this story that deserves the round of applause, not Chad's dating philosophy. Sherelle recognizing her own worth and walking away from someone who was benefiting from her life while disrespecting it. The internet tends to turn these situations into entertainment, but for the woman on the other side of all those rules and requirements, this was her real life, her real home, her real family, and she deserved better than what she got. He's already moved on. New woman, new chapter, same energy, and that's the thing about patterns. They don't break on their own. Chad is now in his mid-40s, still holding auditions instead of building something, still treating relationships like transactions, still making content about what he wants from women, while his own track record quietly tells a completely different story. At some point, the age gap between him and the women he's drawn to is going to become its own conversation. The options that feel unlimited right now have a shelf life. The podcast episodes, the viral moments, the internet fame, all of it eventually starts to thin out. And what's left when the noise fades is the question he's been avoiding the whole time. Not what do I need from a woman, but who am I when nobody's watching and there's no checklist to hide behind? That's the question Chad hasn't answered yet. And until he does, every new relationship is just another set of tryouts, with no team ever getting built. Chad might have the most detailed dating rulebook of anyone in entertainment right now, but rules without self-awareness aren't standards. They're just walls dressed up in requirements, and no amount of oatmeal cream pies is going to fix that. Sources: Nightcap Podcast, Club Shay Shay, Bussin' with the Boys, People Magazine, Page 6, Hot New Hip Hop, Clutch Points.